talking about how to grade trees according to Florida grades and standards today. Some of the tools that you need in order to do an evaluation include clipboard, a tree grading sheet, a caliper or diameter tape to measure trunk diameter, and I like to have a little trowel or a little shovel to kind of examine the root system if I need to look at it more closely. Also, when you're beginning, it would be helpful to have some type of a measuring pole graduated into 1 foot increments up to about 12 feet. So I'm going to start the procedure. There are 7 steps and 3 matrices. These are different classifications based upon the species that require certain canopy widths and depths, certain heights, minimum heights, as well as caliper size and the size of the root ball. And all of those are driven by the caliper. That's a very important thing. So the larger the caliper, the larger the tree should be. I think that's pretty much common sense. So let's run through the procedure here. I'm going to make my measurement. I know I have a matrix 3 tree. This is a Bonisia Rivera wood. I'm going to make my measurement right at about 6 inches above grade. Comes out to about 1.5. So if it had been a little more than that, you always round down. So I'm going to write that down, 1.5 inches at 6 inches above grade. Next, I'm going to evaluate the trunk structure. And here I'm looking at from the base of the tree all the way to the top. Does it have a nice single trunk, or does the trunk bifurcate or divide into 2 or more codominant leads? As I look at this tree, I see that it's got a pretty nice dominant trunk up until about this point here, where it does divide into 2 equally sized halves. The rule on this is for Florida grade number 1, such a bifurcation cannot occur in the lower half of the tree. If it's there or above that point, it's a Florida number 1. If it's a Florida fancy, you cannot have a bifurcation anywhere except the top 10%. So as I stand back and look at this tree, I'm thinking that's probably a Florida grade number 1 because the bifurcation is above the midpoint. I'm also looking at issues with the trunk in terms of dog legs. There is a little bit of curvature here, but in order for that to be a downgrade, a dog leg has to occur in the clear trunk zone, not in the canopy, and it has to be more offset than the diameter of the trunk itself, which is not the case here. So we have a Florida grade number 1 on trunk structure. Crown uniformity, step 3, I'm going to be looking at the fullness of the canopy. I'm looking for balance. I'm hoping I'm not going to see large voids that could knock it down. We only have 2 choices here. It's either acceptable or unacceptable. In the current grades and standards, they consider that fancy or a number 2. So as I'm looking at the canopy here, I'm thinking this tree is probably going to certainly fall within the acceptable range. It's got pretty nice balance, reasonably full. It is a Bonisia. They're a little more open habit than an elk, so you have to take the species into account a little bit. But I think it's certainly acceptable, so I'm going to call it a Florida fancy. And then I'm at step 4. Step 4 is what is the lowest grade you've assigned to the tree so far? Well, we said it was a number 1 on trunk structure, so that makes it a number 1 at this point, step 4. So the next part of the video, we'll be talking about the major and minor downgrades, steps 5 and 6, as well as step 7, the final grading step, which is the roots.